Hi, I'm Neil Creek, and this is Night Photography Advanced. It's New Year's Eve, and we've come to Docklands in Melbourne to watch the fireworks, which are about to go off just behind me over here. Now, fireworks are a very interesting and fun photographic subject, but you are under a lot of time pressure to make sure you get the shots that you need in the time that you've got while the fireworks are going. Now, some fireworks shows might go for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, in which case you've got a bit of time to get going. But a lot of times you've only got a couple of minutes to get the shots that you want. So it's good to be prepared ahead of time. A lot of fireworks shows are held in cities, and that's a great thing because you get a foreground element that you can work into your composition. And fireworks really look fantastic if they've got an element to anchor them to the scene, and the city here is going to be great for that. So it's a good idea to try and get your exposure settings to work for the city scene before you get the fireworks shots done. So what do you need to get the best possible fireworks? Well, just about any camera from compact upwards is good, but I would suggest a bridge camera where you've got more control over the settings will get a better result. You'll definitely need a tripod because a lot of these photos are going to be going for several seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, maybe more. Combined with the tripod, it's a great idea if you have access to a cable release, or if you don't have a cable release, use timer mode on the camera. Now, a lot of cameras have 2-second timer modes, which is fantastic for fireworks photography, or 10-second timer mode. I wouldn't recommend using a 10-second timer mode because you've only got a limited amount of time and you could miss some fantastic fireworks during those 10 seconds. So if you've only got a 10-second timer mode, just use your fingers and try to keep the camera from bumping too much. If it does bump a little bit, you'll notice a few wobbles in the trails of the fireworks. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not really exactly how the fireworks looked. For focusing, if you've got access to a view of the city, just focus with autofocus on the city lights, and that will be a good enough approximation for where the fireworks are going to be. Once you've got the autofocus, turn the camera into manual focus mode. If you're still on autofocus mode and you recompose to get the fireworks where you're expecting to be in the center of the shot, and you're in autofocus mode, the camera will try and autofocus on the night sky and it will hunt around for focus. You might miss your chance to get your fireworks. So lock it down in manual once you've got your focus. As for the settings, the aperture will control how bright the fireworks look. The shutter speed will control how many fireworks appear in your shot. As the different fireworks go off throughout your shot, they will appear all in the same shot. So if you have too long a shutter speed, then you might find that things get a bit busy, a bit messy, and you can't see the individual fireworks too well. So I recommend starting at around about f10. And for our aperture, because we don't want to burn out the color in the core of the fireworks, I suggest starting at maybe f16 or maybe going up to f8 if that's a bit too dark. Now with our f8 and 10-second starting exposure settings, we then need to figure out what ISO we need. Now, the lower the ISO, the better for image quality with noise, but you can increase it or decrease it to get the background view of the city or your other elements in the shot looking how you want them to and correctly exposed. When you start shooting the fireworks, you can then experiment with changing your settings after you've already got a few shots that you like. One thing to take note about fireworks is that as the show goes on, the smoke from the previously exploded shells starts to collect in the area. And unless you've got a high wind, that smoke will hang around and it'll mean that the later shots will be a bit more foggy. The fireworks will be a bit harder to see. So you'll probably get your best shots early on in the show. Once you've got a few of your great shots though, then I recommend trying a few things out, experimenting with your shutter speed, with your aperture, and you can get even more creative if you have a long focal length lens or a long zoom lens on your camera. You can start and get a few wide angle shots to start with and then zoom in to get close-up shots of the fireworks just of themselves and fill the frame with the fireworks. That can get some really interesting shots that you don't often see because most people shoot fireworks wide. So I'm just going to go and we're going to take a few shots now with the camera before the fireworks start to test our settings and to see how the city foreground looks with that. And if the settings work for that, then we can be pretty sure that we're going to get our first few shots looking good with those recommended settings. So we've got our camera set up now and we've got the composition that we want where I think the fireworks are going to appear. I've been here in this location before in previous years and the fireworks appear over the city there. You can probably actually see we've even got the moon in the shot tonight, which is a nice bit of coincidence. So we're going to be able to include a celestial body in our photo. I've started with the camera set up on f16, 10 seconds, and ISO 400. And we'll just take a shot of the cityscape now and see how that looks and if we've got our exposure correct. Okay, I actually had that set at ISO 100, and as you can see looking at the photo, it's not quite bright enough, it's a bit dark, so I will put it up to ISO 400. That's 2 more stops, twice the brightening, and that should make the city look good, but I need to keep an eye on that when the fireworks start, because it may make the fireworks themselves a little bit too bright. So we'll keep an eye on that when we're doing the fireworks, and if it does look too bright, we'll try dropping the ISO, or maybe shutting down the aperture a little further. So change it to 400 ISO and try that again. Okay, that's looking better. The moon's a little bit bright, but that doesn't matter. It's supposed to be quite bright in this sort of scene. And we've got some quite clear views of the foreground there with the ship's masts, people in the foreground on the docks setting up to view the fireworks, and the city lights reflecting in the water. So it's quite a nice scene, and I think that will be a good starting point for our photos. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned yet is white balance. White balance isn't really crucial to this sort of shot, especially if you're shooting in RAW, you can change it afterwards. I recommend perhaps trying daylight white balance, because that's often a good starting point, and fireworks can look, great if the white balance is assumed to be daylight. But you might want to try other settings. If you've got a lot of artificial light, a lot of light pollution from the city, the sky can look quite orange. So to correct that, you might want to try shooting at tungsten white balance. This is of particular importance if you're not shooting in RAW, because you can't change it afterwards. So tungsten white balance might be a better white balance for shooting if you've got a lot of orangey light pollution going on. Okay, so now we just have to wait for the countdown and get ready to get our shots. Normally when I'm doing the overlays of the photos I'm taking during a lecture, I show the photos unprocessed so you can get a good idea of how it looks out of camera. But because shooting fireworks, they're spectacular images and they really look their best with a bit of processing, we're going to process the photos for the overlays and show it to you as they look their best as we go. Okay, the fireworks are a lot closer this year, so I need to recompose, go out wide. I'm using autofocus again to try and refocus on the buildings now that I've got a new composition. Back to manual. And lock off on the tripod and start shooting with the cable release. Okay, it seems the cable release has suddenly decided to stop working on me. So make sure you're checking your camera all the time to get those shots. Okay, now we check our first shot, that's overexposed. So I'm going to drop the ISO back down again to 100. Okay, that's looking better, but I don't like the white balance. I'm going to go back to daylight from tungsten, and I think I'll increase the aperture, or decrease the aperture to f22. Okay, that's looking better. Now we just keep shooting. I'm going to try the cable release again, and it's working. Now just check to see if we've got enough fireworks in that shot, and yes, 10 seconds is looking pretty good. So let's just keep shooting and shooting until we've got enough shots. Okay, now looking at those last few shots, it looks like the fireworks are small off to the right and big and tall to our left. So once I've got a few more landscape shots, I might try the camera in portrait orientation for a bit of variety. Okay, it seems to be a lull now, so I'm going to try vertical composition. Okay, and triggering again. Check the photo, and that's good, but it's not very high there, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Back to autofocus. Get focus on the fireworks are bright enough, which is great. Manual again, and trying again. Oh, they're cool. They look great in shots. Check the photo, looking great, and keep going. Now that particular shot there, you saw there's still a fair bit of room above the fireworks. They may be more coming into that later, so I'm going to leave it as is and we can crop it in processing. I'm going to tilt down a little bit more because I'm not happy with the lack of foreground in this, so a bit more people, and turn around a little bit more as well. And here we go again. Okay, I'm going to get a couple more shots at this angle, and then I'm going to zoom in. Okay, for this next shot, I'm going to zoom in really tight, and I want to get the moon in this shot because it's not often you get fireworks in front of the moon. So I'm going to autofocus again on the moon, recompose to the left to get the fireworks back in, manual focus, lock it off, and shoot. Okay, looks like the cable release is being a little bit dodgy there. Really happy with the looks of these in front of the moon. I might go a bit wider for this shot. Refocus on the moon again. Okay, looks like it's come out to the finale, so I'm going to go back out wide to try and get the whole scene in. Autofocus on the moon again. Needs to go a bit wider even. Lock off the tripod and shoot. Okay, I'm going to try a longer shutter speed this time. I'm going to go to 30 seconds to try and get a lot of fireworks in shot. We're lucky we've got quite a breeze tonight, so the smoke is keeping away from the fireworks themselves and not affecting the photos too much. That's a bit too much, I think. I'm going to go back to 20 seconds for a bit of a change. I'll make it 15. looking pretty good. I'm going to keep shooting at those settings, and that's composition. Okay, I've got a few good photos in the bag now. I'm going to try some different settings, or a different composition. I'm going to zoom in on some of the more distant fireworks coming off the taller buildings. So back into autofocus to refocus on those. Recompose. Lock off. Manual focus. And shoot. And they're going all over the city now, so I might go a little bit wider again. Actually, I'm going to go back to full width again because there's just too much going on. I have. This is a wide shot. Still looking good, going to keep shooting. This looks like the finale. Going to zoom in one more time on the moon. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to stay wide for this finale. Wow. Not even looking at the screen for these, I just want to miss it, so I'm going to keep shooting. I'm going to shorten my shutter speed. And the show's over. Now I was going to shorten my shutter speed then because so much was going on, I didn't want it to get too overlaid, but next time. So, as you can see, during fireworks, you've got to be fast, you've got to think on your feet, but with a nice long show like that, you've got plenty of time to try lots of different ideas and lots of different settings. So hopefully we got some great shots out of that. We'll see how they look in processing, and we can try it again the next holiday, which for Australia is Australia Day. And I know in America, you guys have a fantastic time on the 4th of July. So we'll see you in the processing lecture up next.